have been getting killed for like very long time. Yeah.
Does that make it okay to continue doing it?
Yes.
Once human slavery had been done for hundreds of years, once women...
Excuse me, hello everybody. Let me just get my own POV on this situation.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Vegan Perspective. I'm actually gonna review this video that I've seen by Josh Tolley, and I just want to kind of give my review, or sort of break down some of the key points that he kind of goes over in this video. Maybe give my opinion as to some of the context that might be missing. You know, I don't speak for Tash Peterson in any sort of way. But, you know, me being a vegan, I think that she has a lot of valid points that maybe aren't being portrayed in the correct way in a video like this. And this is no shade on Josh. Like, I'm sure he's an awesome content creator, and I mean him no ill will. Just want to get the conversation starting. You know, maybe some things that he mentions in this video, or thoughts that he has about some of the things that Tash Peterson says, maybe just needs a little bit more light being shined on and kind of further broken down. So I'm going to play some clips throughout the video, some key points of things that he says or things that are mentioned that Tash Peterson has said in her activism, and then kind of elaborate further on what I think is the bigger picture that might be missing. So let's just get into the video.
My name is Josh. If you haven't been here before, I make commentary videos where I critique people extremely harshly but with valid reasons. If you are brand new,
I think this is the only part in the video where I am gonna get a little bit personal with Josh. It's no shade on him, and it's not his fault. I do think that we live in a world where everybody wants to give their opinion or critique somebody in something that they do, and I think that that's perfectly fine. But I do have a problem with how he says with valid reason, because I do think there's a lot of things that he says in this video, or things that go over his head, or maybe just a little bit of misinformation. So let's watch.
Tash Peterson is getting sued, or rather has a cease and desist letter at her fingertips. This is all down to the things she did over a year ago, where she entered a no vegan restaurant and decided to tell all these lovely people eating their meals that they're killing pigs. Because guys, you know, that's how it works. You cut up a steak and next thing you know, you're the animal version of Jeffrey Dahmer. But
So I think this is a good example. You may not be directly killing a pig or killing a cow with your own bare hands, but through your choices and through your actions, you are secondhand responsible for the death of these animals, because your choices are putting them there in the first place. If we did not have a desire to eat these animals, then farms and slaughterhouses would not exist. They would not be killing animals to meet the demand of society who wants to eat these animals or wear them, and so forth and so on. So here Josh is going to play a clip of some of the activism that happened at this restaurant that banned vegans. I'm not going to show the whole clip because it's a little bit long. There's not much context. She's at this restaurant protesting, and we're just going to go into some of the things that Josh says after watching this clip.
literally went into a restaurant full of innocent people, maybe going on dates, anniversaries, reunions, and you just started screaming that they're all murderers. Like, surely there must have been a better way to handle this, to protest in some other way. I'm not even...
So this is just what I was saying earlier, that she might not be saying that you're directly responsible for the death of these animals, but, you know, your choices and your actions are what put them there. You know, this form of activism that Tash Peterson does is a form of disruptive activism. You know, there's different types of activism out there, right? There's political activism, there's disruptive activism, there's, you know, protests, there's marches, there's strikes, there's unionizing, you know, you can boycotts, you know, there's different types of activism, and this form of activism that Tash Peterson does, though I personally, I'm not against it. It's not something that I could do. I'm not against it in any form of way. If that's the way that she decides to do her activism, then more power to her. You know, she's not saying anything that's necessarily wrong, though some people might not want to hear it. You know, it is something that is happening, and something that people should consider and think about the choices that they make and what impact those choices have. A good argument for the way that Tash does her activism. If you were in the shoes or in the position of the cow or the chicken, and you were being kept against your will and slaughtered for meat, would you want people out there trying to convince people in a nice manner, hey, you shouldn't eat these, you shouldn't eat this person, they're nice, they care about their children and they have a family and they want to live? Or would you want somebody out there like Tash fighting tooth and nail to shed light on what's happening to you and what they're doing to you is wrong, and how these people might be the ones responsible for you being in that position, right? So it's just something to think about.
But this whole predicament happened over a year ago, way before Tash Peterson's notoriety ever kicked in, and also probably when she actually cared about the animals and not the profit she's making on her OnlyFans. But now all of those...
I do have to defend Tash here a little bit, because she has openly said that she has an OnlyFans, and if she cared more about her OnlyFans than she did animal rights and animal liberation, then why is she not out there holding signs promoting her OnlyFans, right? Like, she has openly stated that she has an OnlyFans, and that the primary reason of why she has an OnlyFans is to help support the lifestyle of being a full-time activist. What her and her boyfriend decide to do on their OnlyFans is their own personal business. The difference between saying, well, live and let live, if she wants to do OnlyFans, I should be able to eat animals, is that her decision to do OnlyFans, there's no victim at the end of that action. Whereas opposed to, I guarantee that if you are eating animal flesh, there is a victim at the end of that choice, at the end of that decision that you're making to eat animal flesh. So it's a little bit different, but like I said, no shade on Josh. It's just something that I think should be elaborated on, because this is something that does come up a lot in Tash's defense, that she has an OnlyFans and she's only doing it for OnlyFans, yet I never see her posting videos promoting her OnlyFans. So yeah.
I'm in big shit if I commit another criminal offence.
Well, it's just the consequences to your actions. Secondly, before we get into all of this, I don't think they banned all vegans. I think it was a steakhouse. If there's a vegan option, it does kind of defeat the whole point of a steakhouse. I also love how she's acting.
Actually, he did ban all vegans. It's been public knowledge, and this has been something that he's been interviewed about, as well as articles have been written about the situation. And I'll try to summarize it as best as I can. A woman who was vegan had reached out to his restaurant and said, I'm vegan, is there any way you can accommodate me? He replied, the exchange was nice. He said he could accommodate to her. He could make a gnocchi vegetable plate for her, and I'm not sure if she had a party with her or whatever, but turns out when the day came for her to show up, he forgot that she was going to be there. They did not have the dishes prepared, and she was upset, rightfully so. Even he has openly accepted responsibility for being in the wrong, but I do think the way he handled it is probably a little bit immature, right? So the lady who was upset because he forgot, I think rightfully left a review that she was unhappy with the service because he forgot. And it was then where he decided to make a post saying that all vegans were banned. Tash decided to then go and do a protest at the restaurant, right? So there actually was a ban on vegans. And like I said, there are plenty of videos and plenty of articles going over the fact that he did do this and why he did it.
You've been invading private and public spaces, demanding that vegans should stop, and if they disagree with you, you get even more annoyed. Tash, this is the first consequence you've had over the hundreds of actions you have done. I would consider you've gotten pretty damn lucky. I love how it's all serious, like she's walking out the courthouse as well. You just know it was made like 1,000 times before. So
I think that's kind of the point, right? First I want to say that there's a little bit of misinformation here, because it's not the first time. From my understanding, I've seen a majority of her videos, but I did see a couple videos of her talking about being arrested or being charged with something. So it's not the first time that she has had any sort of consequence for her actions. There's been multiple times in the past, but I think what he's saying here about it being performative, of course it's performative. If you're pushing your activism out there and you're creating content for that activism, you want to send a message, right? And the message clearly is that she's out there fighting for the animals that are being abused and being exploited, right?
But I will also say, it also seems like there's a bit of pride in this. Like, oh yes, people that are noticing me, this will get on the news. Like, this isn't a positive thing. You look like an arsehole. No, you don't look like one. You are an arsehole.
That's the point of these things, is you might think that she looks like an asshole because she's showing up on TV for having been arrested. But the more people that see the message that she's portraying, whether they agree with it or not, it's going to be something that they're going to take with them and then think about that going forward throughout their life, whether they become vegan or they don't. You know, it's about bringing attention to some form of injustice that's happening, and that being to the animals, you know. So when she shows up on TV, yeah, she's clearly going to be very excited to show up on TV and radio stations and talk about her message, because the more people that hear and see what actually happens to animals, you know, if you watch some of these interviews that she does, a lot of these radio hosts, they don't even realize the things that happen to animals, you know. And that's something that if you're making the choice to eat animals, then you should know the impact of what your choices are doing, right? So of course she wants that, and it's good for her, you know.
Honestly, guys, I'm surprised she hasn't had a cease and desist for public disturbance, because she's been terrorising the people of Australia for years now. Even going as far as to terrorise kids and trying to indoctrinate them to vegan mindset by making them watch this messed up film.
So I'm going to play the whole clip here so you can see the full context of, not that Josh cut anything out of context, but I'm going to elaborate on why a conversation like this is important to have with kids. And you seeing the full video will give you a better idea of, you know, the point that I'm trying to make. So let's watch the clip.
You girls seen slaughterhouse footage?
I have.
Where did you see it?
My friend sent it to me and I started crying.
Can you tell me, what did you see?
I saw pigs getting suffocated by this gas, and
in the gas chambers.
I don't like to see that, but it does taste good, and it gives me nutrients and protein. It makes us healthy.
You can get your nutrients and protein from plant-based alternatives. After seeing pigs literally suffocating and burning from the inside out in gas chambers before their heads cut off, how can you keep eating them?
My mum kind of forces me to eat my meats as well.
If your mum tried to force you to eat a dog, would you eat them?
Oh no, I'd run away.
But what about the pigs and cows? Why not do the same for them? They're no different to a dog.
It's different. Whoa, it's different. It's different.
I don't think that the discussion between the young girl and Tash is a conversation that is inappropriate. You know, even the young woman herself has said that she's seen the footage, that she saw the footage and it made her cry. But everything this young woman is saying sounds like something someone who's against animal abuse would say. You know, she says that her parents kind of force it on her, and that she does it because she needs protein and nutrients. But even Tash points out, well, if you can get your protein and nutrients from other sources that don't require killing an animal, which you yourself said was sad and made you cry because you saw what happens to pigs in these gas chambers, you know, why don't you just eat something else? And she goes on to say that it's different, but it's not, right? You know, if the idea of eating a dog makes you sad and you'd run away, why don't you share that same empathy for an animal like a cow or a pig? Because, you know, they're the same in all the important ways, right? So, you know, the young woman herself is saying things that portrays someone who is against the slaughter and abuse of animals, yet her actions are showing different, right? So I think Tash is just trying to show her, well, you don't like the footage, it made you cry. You say that you would run away if your parents tried to feed you a dog. Why don't you do that when it's a cow or a pig? And it's not her fault. It's just the way that we're raised. We're disconnected from, one, what happens to our food, and two, we grow up thinking that cows and pigs and chickens are made for food. They only exist for us to eat, you know? So it's sad to think about, especially when these animals share a lot of similar traits that a dog does, you know, can love you like a dog does, gets excited like a dog does, can cuddle and show affection to you just like a dog does, you know. So that's the reason why Tash is having this conversation with a young woman, and why I think it's not an inappropriate conversation. It's something that I think we should grow up learning about, being educated on.
But these are kids. I mean, they look no older than 14, right? Do you really think the first thing that's on a teenager's mind is, should I be eating meat or should I be eating vegan? No! They want to do fucking alcohol. They want to be stupid. And as this girl said to...
I mean, this is a little bit silly. The video is funny, right? But it's a little bit ridiculous, right? Because at 14, I wasn't like, well, every child is different, but at 14 for me, I just wanted to go to my room and play World of Warcraft all day, you know? Like, I wasn't thinking I wanted to go out and do alcohol. Was I thinking about animals and the things that they go through and animal abuse? Of course not. It's the point of why these activists have these conversations, because I wasn't taught or even thinking about that at 14 years old. And now I wish, as an adult, I wish I had known about that sooner, you know? And it's funny because even my kids, who they see that I'm vegan, they make the connection themselves. Oh, I want chicken nuggets. You can have some of my chicken nuggets. And I will tell them, no, I don't eat that. You know, it's not something that I eat. And they're like, oh, because it's made of chickens and you don't eat chickens. And it's just something that they make that kind of connection themselves. I don't force it on them. I stick to my morals, and I educate them on any sort of questions that they have, and questions that they ask me, and any curiosities. And, you know, I think that they know themselves that the idea of eating a chicken just for a chicken nugget makes them sad, you know? So I don't know what other people were doing at 14 years old, but for me, it definitely was not drinking alcohol. I'll tell you that much.
Tash, the point I'm trying to make, and the point I've tried to make for the last 3 videos, is that you cannot get the same amount of nutrients and protein from plants as you can from meats. Because guess what? The cavemen didn't have a vegan burger back then. They were bloody eating raw meat, the savages, the absolute chance. But at the end of the day,
I mean, this is something that's a little bit ridiculous, right? Because there are plenty of vegans in the world that do not eat animals and are healthy and thriving, and bodybuilders participating in competitions and records broken by vegan bodybuilders. You know, you can get the exact same of protein and micronutrients that you need from an animal diet versus a plant diet. The whole point of that kind of statement is the fact that if you can get the same amount of nutrients as you can without having to kill any animals, why would you not make that decision, right? You know, just because cavemen did it back millions of years ago doesn't mean that we should replicate that behavior today in today's world, right? Like, cavemen did things that they had to do out of survival, and here we are in 2024. We got grocery stores at every corner selling all types of food. You know, it's not something that needs to be done out of necessity. We don't need to kill animals to survive, and that's like the bigger point and the bigger picture when it comes to thriving on a vegan diet. You know, it's not something that we need to do out of necessity. So why not choose the option that involves the animals not being killed?
But at the end of the day, the most important point of all of this, right? This girl has actually watched Dominion. She's watched these horrible things happen, and she has still made the decision going, I want to eat meat. She has been educated on what happens to her meat before it gets there, and yet she has still made the decision to eat meat, meaning that she is okay with it. So instead of going, you know what, you've made your own decision, you live your life, but I don't agree with what you're doing, Tash decides to go...
The thing about this is that, you know, I think veganism is something that happens in steps for the majority of people. Maybe I can only speak from my perspective personally. You know, I remember seeing footage of animal exploitation and seeing Dominion and seeing this footage and thinking how sad it was, and that, you know what, I'm not going to eat animals anymore because I made that connection of like, I don't need to, I can eat other things, right? So let me stop eating animals. But I still drank milk. I still ate cheese because I'm like, I'm not eating animals, right? And you just, as you go through it and you kind of see other vegans and you learn more and you read more, and I'm like, wow, like I thought it was just about not eating animals, but what cows and chickens go through to give me egg, milk, and cheese is horrible. You know, I'm against animals being killed for food. Why am I not against this? Let alone the amount of death that happens to chickens in the egg laying industry, right? So, you know, I think I understand his perspective of like, well, she already knows and she's happy with it. But I do think that, like, me personally, I wish when I watched that footage that I had someone who was vegan to kind of further explain to me, like, hey man, like, you know, hold me accountable. Hey, you know, you saw that footage and it makes you sad that cows are dying for a burger for you, but you know, there's still a lot of slaughter and a lot of exploitation and a lot of abuse that happens in the dairy industry, you know, and you're still eating cheese and pizza, right? So, like, that's the reason why Tash is still trying to get her point across, because, you know, it obviously the young woman, she's still a little bit naive on the situation, which is perfectly fine, you know. Tash is just trying to help her realize, you know, you feel this way, but you're still doing these actions. And even though you think that not eating animals is enough, some of the other choices that you make, whether it's wearing leather or wearing wool or, you know, buying pillows with feathers in them, you know, they're still contributing to some of that footage that you saw that made you sad, you know. So if you don't want to be responsible for that or know that you're supporting that, then hey, like, there's still more, because veganism is very deep and touches in a lot of areas. I think that's why we often see, you know, vegans kind of drill the point in of, you know, what's really happening to animals in the animal agriculture.
You know what? I was going to bring up this whole debate about the dogs are the same as animals, because they're not, but I've already spoken about this and I've said everything I've had to say on it. Dogs are pets, animal cows and chickens, they're food. That's the whole point. Not many places.
That is the point that is kind of stretched so far apart between vegans and non-vegans. That's the problem. The problem is, why is a dog considered a pet versus a cow and a chicken? Why do we choose to eat these animals but choose to love and care for these animals, right? And I don't want to throw any shade at Josh, but dogs are animals, dude. Like, I don't know. Maybe you should elaborate a little bit more on the fact that you separate domesticated pets versus domesticated livestock, right? Because when we look at domesticated pets like cats and dogs, and then we have domesticated livestock like cows, chickens, and pigs, right? We shouldn't be choosing who deserves to live and who deserves to die. Why can't they all just live? Especially when there's options out there for you to eat other things, you know?
Not many places in the world eat dog, and the places that do, everyone else finds them weird. But everyone in the world eats chickens and cows and meats and stuff like that. Everyone eats that because guess what? It's part of living as a human. But for
I mean, it's not, right? I mean, that kind of statement is a little bit hyperbolic, right? Because there are different cultures that don't eat specific animals, right? Like in Asia, you have the Yulon Dog Meat Festival, right? That they boil dogs alive and they pick up stray dogs from the street and decide to eat and sell the meat. And when we look at that from across the world, like in the United States, everybody gets upset and throws their arms in the air and, oh my God, I can't believe they're eating all these dogs. You know, every culture and religion, a couple of religions, decide to worship some animals and eat other animals, right? Like I think Muslim culture, they don't eat cows, right? They find them sacred. Or Jewish or Hebrew cultures don't eat pig, right? So to say that, oh, we all eat this, and if you don't, you're weird, and the only weird ones are the people that eat dogs, is just a little bit hyperbolic, because that's not the case. Everybody has their own sort of different cultures dictate independently what they find weird to eat and what they don't. Whereas veganism is just like, hey, like, why can't we just not eat any of them? You know, it's just that simple, really.
You went on this debate with the farmer, right, that kills animals, and oh my god, props to you, my man. Legend. I love you.
You're wearing a belt. Is that belt from leather or is that an artificial?
Yeah, it's vegan leather, yeah.
Okay, but it's leather.
Yeah, it's not someone's skin.
So it's actually an artificial product. That's the question I'm asking.
Yeah, no one was shot in the head for my belt. Vegan leather, so it's a synthetic material and no one was shot in the head,
so
and
that
it's
bit
not
of
someone else's
synthetic
skin.
material you've got, that produced as much CO2 as driving my car from here to Darwin.
Can I see the scientific resource?
Go to WHO, the United
fact-
Nations WHO website. That will actually show you that for every 500 grams of synthetic material created, it produces as much CO2 as driving 2,000 kilometers.
You know, we need to be careful when it comes to things like this and clips like this, because just because you say something and you say something that's a comparable statistic doesn't mean that it's correct. Because I could say, oh, did you know that eating one cow is equal to drinking the amount of water in a pool? Like, it's just something, I'm just saying something without any sort of scientific basis. And I'm not going to play the clip after this, but Josh does go into the fact that how she asks him to provide the study with citing that sort of information and how that was done, and he doesn't have it, and that, oh, if he had it, that she would have been done. You know, we can do that ourselves and look it up here, that 500 grams of synthetic leather is equivalent to driving 2,000 kilometers in his car, is exaggerated. And I'm going to pull up some studies here. I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to go into the exact measurements of said study, but we can see that vegan leather emits approximately 7 to 15.8 kilograms of CO2 per square meter, and animal leather produces around 110 kilograms per square meter. So obviously that's a lot more. And then a study that's shared by the Leather Panel, which focuses on emissions post slaughterhouse in the leather supply chain. So that means everything that happens after the slaughter of an animal, not including the CO2 that is generated from animal agriculture itself. This is only from what happens after the animal is officially slaughtered and sent to the leather supply chain, which reads, according to the data, the carbon emissions for natural leather stands at 17.0 kilograms of CO2 per square meter of leather produced, and the total supply chain impact of synthetic leather, including all stages from production to distribution, is reported to be at 15.8 kilograms of CO2 per square meter. So you can see, based off of those studies alone, that animal leather emits more CO2 than synthetic leather. So now that that's done, we got that out of the way, we can move on to the next topic.
As I've said in every single video, you cannot stop killing animals. Animal killing is always going to happen. People are always going to eat meat. But what you can do is go to a butcher's you trust, go to a farmer you trust, and get your meats from there, because you know that the animals are killed humanely. But the irony...
I mean, he's right. You know, animal killing is always going to exist to some degree. You know, even if everybody in the world went vegan tomorrow, I'm sure that there are going to be people, like anything, there's going to be people that want something like something exotic, right? Like something that, oh, nobody eats dogs. Like, oh, here's, you know, a group of people that we just want to try eating dog. Like, that's just the way, unfortunately, that humans are, which is just the way that it's going to work, right? But it doesn't need to be at the level that we are at right now. And if we go to animalclock.org, we can see that as of today's recording, August 6th of 2024, this year alone, 33.2 billion animals have been slaughtered for food in the United States alone. So yes, animals are always going to be killed. To some degree, there's going to be people that want to eat meat, but not to this degree that we are at right now, because the numbers are insane, and the amount of animals we're killing per year just for a sandwich is insane.
Peterson has compared animals being killed for human consumption to human slavery. But unlike the last time she did it in the first video I made, she did this in front of a black woman. And guys, I don't think I need to tell you the connotations of why that is so bad. It just is.
Okay, so this is the clip that we've been waiting for, right? Tash Peterson is going to talk about and compare what the animals go through and compare it to slavery. Let's get into the clip.
Have been getting killed for like very long time. Yeah.
Does that make it okay to continue doing it?
Yes.
Once human slavery had been done for hundreds of years, once women...
Excuse me, hello everybody. Let me just get my own POV on this situation.
Does that make it okay to continue doing it?
I wonder how this lady brings slavery, human slavery, into thing. Oh yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna cut the video there because that's pretty much all that's really said in the clip. The point that Tash is trying to make is that if you put yourself in the position of the animals, right, where you're kept in tight places, unable to move, unable to walk about freely, where you're seen as property, you're seen as a commodity, you're sold between farms and slaughterhouses, you know, where you're pretty much held against your will and you have absolutely no rights to your own freedom and your own autonomy, you know, we can say that that's a slave, right? And if we even look up the definition of slave, you can see here that slave is a person who is forced to work and obey another and is considered to be their property, an enslaved person. So would you call these cows and pigs and chickens who don't get to do anything, who are essentially producing eggs for your farm, producing milk for your farm, are these cows and pigs and chickens, are they property of these farm workers? They are, right? So it is a form of slavery. Obviously, us as a human race, we're going to feel more empathetic and more disgusted by the idea of human slavery. But what the animals are going through is slavery nonetheless. It's a form of slavery. When we look back at slavery, at the time where slavery was okay in society, where humans were enslaved by other humans, in that time, we viewed it as okay, right? But when we look at it in today's lens, after the fact, obviously it's not okay. So how can you say we've been farming animals and killing them for food for millions of years? Then why wouldn't you have that same opinion on any other sort of injustice that has ever happened in our society, right? You wouldn't, because it's kind of ridiculous, right? We look at things today and we condemn the things that we used to do, whether it's women not having rights or African Americans not having rights. And that's the point that Tash is trying to make. You know, we view it, a lot of people view this slaughterhouse footage and they're against it, but they still support it. And they'll cling to it by saying things like, I need it for protein, I need it for nutrients. Oh, we've been doing it for millions of years. The cavemen have been doing it. The cavemen used to eat it. It's like, you know, that's not something that we need to do today. And just because we did do it back then doesn't mean that it's okay today. So in summary, is she trying to equate human slavery and animal slavery? Absolutely not. But what the animals are going through, if you put yourself in that position of that cow and that pig, would you define it as slavery? Would you want somebody fighting for you to free you from that sort of enslavement? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mainly. But the irony is, right, by you making this fake leather, these fake shoes, you're actually helping in killing the planet and therefore killing the animals. So this nice act of service you're doing, this protect all animals, is actually indirectly harming them afterwards.
You know, killing animals and doing damage to the, I'll say, quote unquote, environment is something that is unavoidable, you know. Thousands of animals are killed or either pushed out of their habitats for us as a society every day. You know, we need to build more houses and build more apartments and build homes to live. Like, that's just something that's almost unavoidable. But those are out of necessities for us to thrive as a human race, whereas killing animals just to eat them is something that we don't need. So guys, that's the video. You know, that's my take on this video by Josh Tolley. Like I said, absolutely no shade to the guy. You know, I just think that there's just some things that he said in this video that I think I kind of wanted to give my own personal take on and kind of elaborate on some of the things that might be going unsaid in this sort of dialogue and conversation, you know. So if you enjoyed the video and you want to see more content like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, leave a like, and I encourage you, vegan and non-vegan alike, to comment in the comment section with some of your opinions, some of the things that I said, whether you agree or disagree, and keep the conversation flowing, keep it respectful, and keep it positive. Till then, I'll see you in the next video.